Wall Street, Reddit, and GameStop. What is going on? So, in addition to being an investor and trader who watched the story unfold, I'm also a practitioner of astrology, and everyone's been asking, "Yo, S, what's going on? Did you hear about Reddit? Did you hear about AMC? Did you hear about WallStreetBets? You know, what's going on? Are you in? Are you in the game? Or what did the chart say? Tell me about it." Right? So you've probably been hearing about it from friends and family as well. So what is going on? Let's talk about it. Essentially, there's a group of Redditors called WallStreetBets that essentially started figuring out you could take the worst stocks that are trading on Wall Street right now and essentially buy them, pump them, sending up the price up, and that would trigger what's called a short squeeze. What's a short squeeze? Well, first we need to explain what a short is. You've probably been hearing that placing a short is un-American and all sorts of emotional statements, stuff like that, but let's stay level-headed and understand what shorting an asset actually is, separate from the actions that were taken, which were completely egregious. So, what is a short? A short is when you buy a stock from a broker and you sell it immediately at its current price. You do this because you're betting on the price failing so that you can sell it back at a lower price and keep the difference in the price as your profits. For example, let's say there was a crazy virus that led to government-enforced lockdowns and all of a sudden brick and mortar businesses completely, you can't go to them. They're basically shut down, right? A savvy investor might see that and go, yo, I bet the stock value of these brick and mortar businesses is about to go down, so I'm going to buy the stock now and sell it for cheap later. So if you bought a stock at $100 you bought $100 of a stock that was valued at $100 from a broker, and the value of that stock dropped to $60 on the market, you can then sell your stock back to the broker, which by contract for you is still worth $100, netting you $40 in profit from the difference. Where this gets nasty is when you use leverage. Now, accredited investors, aka people who work at hedge funds, can use more money than they actually have to make these kinds of trades. They have to pass exams to prove that they understand the market, and they need to have a shit ton of wealth in their net worth besides their homes and their house. Like, they need to have a high amount of net worth to actually be labeled an accredited investor. Being an accredited investor also comes with other perks, like being able to trade when the stock market is closed and having access to high-speed bots and quantitative algorithms that tell them exactly where retail traders are buying and selling. Things that the average retail investor has no idea that even exists. I do, because I happen to be a nerd about investing. I love it. So, more than anybody in the market, these people know the risks. And that fact is why the actions that they took and the complaining and crying that they're doing is absolutely disgusting. Now let's talk about a short squeeze. Now, a short squeeze is triggered when there's a lot of leveraged bets on a stock going down, aka a lot of shorts. And this is exactly what the case was with GameStop and, of course, AMC, two businesses that everybody knows are struggling. They'll probably go out of business soon. It's just the reality of the world we're in today and what's happening, what's taking place. And so, of course, any logical investor with a brain would be shorting or short on the market. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The short squeeze is what happens where all the money that is betting on a stock going down is suddenly faced with a scenario where that stock suddenly starts pumping up, especially when you're trading with leverage, aka borrowing more money than you have to take a position. In order to borrow money from a broker to trade, you need to put up some of your own money as collateral. For example, if I have $1,000 and a broker gives me 10x leverage, I can open up a position for $10,000. However, when you're borrowing more money than you have in the market and you're using that to trade, you're losing that money in a trade. Once it goes past a certain point of risk, you lose everything. They'll take your collateral and you get forced out of that trade because you can't just borrow money indefinitely while you're losing. This is called liquidation. You would need to add more collateral into your account if you want to stay in the game and not have your entire account, everything be taken away from you, which is a very, very interesting fact of the story that I'll come back to, explaining why Robinhood and these other exchanges temporarily took the actions that they did before allowing people to trade again. But back to Reddit. Melvin Capital, the hedge fund that was shorting GameStop without even owning the stock, which is called a naked short, and they were shorting for even more than 100% of what GameStop was even worth on leverage. Because again, these guys are accredited investors and they have extra privileges to borrow money and take positions in the market. People on Reddit saw this and decided, fuck it, let's squeeze these motherfuckers out. Again, a short squeeze is when the market price goes so far against those people shorting it that it starts liquidating those shorts and it creates an explosive movement up in price. So something I need to make clear at this point is this. All of this completely legal, entirely legal so far. Both sides, Reddit, the hedge funds, all the investors in the market are aware of the risks before any of this happened. It's just the hedge funds never, ever expected this type of thing to happen. A famous example is where this happened with Volkswagen in 2008. It was being shorted for a while under $200, and it popped to $1,000 in less than a month. Everyone who was short had to pay a lot of money. Some of those people lost everything, but that's not what happened this time, because the rich decided that they wanted to change the rules, and that's where this gets fucked up. Listen, trading is essentially a form of war. And in war, you have winners and losers, plain and simple. Investing and trading correlate with the 8th house in astrology, which in part relates to gains and losses, which we'll talk about later. Hedge funds and smart traders in this market, this is what they do. Everyone's trying to outsmart each other for a profit. That's the game. It's like sports or fighting. You could get injured, you could lose everything in a fight. That's why professionals prepare accordingly. 8th house careers like fighting or trading are not for everybody. The stakes are high, but you know that going in. Look at this guy right here. He's perusing Reddit and he's betting against them. 3 weeks later, he's bitching about how they shouldn't be allowed to participate. I believe this is a textbook definition of what we call being a sore loser. And then look at this guy.
The reason the market is doing what it's doing is people are sitting at home getting the checks from the government, okay? And this fair share is a bullshit concept. It's just a way of attacking wealthy people. And, you know, I think it's inappropriate. We all got to work together and pull together.
The nerve. Does he think everyone wants to stay at home? Are they really afraid of people who got a $600 check? You're wealthy, but you can't handle people that just got $600? Here's the thing, though. What kind of hedge fund isn't hedged against even being put in a position to lose everything and face bankruptcy over one position, one trade? You mean to tell me your whole financial strategy this year, or last year, 2020, was hinged on the failure of GameStop? To where you just bet infinite amounts of money on their downfall? So I think by now we understand that Melvin Capital doesn't really deserve any sympathy in terms of the losses that they've taken. So Reddit gets together and decides they love GameStop and they want to overcome these short positions on Wall Street. Essentially a bunch of internet nerds figuring out how to overcome the Wall Street machine. Welcome to the Aquarian Age. And it got so dramatic that essentially Robinhood suspended buying GameStop because they saw this as market manipulation, which is absolute bullshit because the market has been manipulated against retail investors since its creation. Take a look. Anyone who says that retail investors deserve this because of manipulation, they just don't understand the nature of markets. They don't understand the 8th house deceptive nature of war. And not everyone is supposed to. Investing is like war. It correlates with the 8th house. There's going to be parts of life that I never learn about or experience because I'm focused on other things. That's just how life goes. So not everyone's going to really truly understand the nature of something unless they're involved in it. So let's talk about manipulation and the deception that took place for these places just to stay alive. Remember, they were leveraged indefinitely. They could have lost everything, billions. Except, here's where Robinhood and all the other top centralized exchanges like TD Ameritrade and eToro and all them stepped in on behalf of these poor Wall Street bankers who were getting overrun by a bunch of Redditors, realizing that there's a bunch of shorts that they could go after. And Wall Street got bailed out yet again. And the way they did it was just egregious. They banned people from buying GameStop. They banned so-called free Americans from putting their money towards supporting companies that they wanted to in a so-called free market. Reddit then started targeting other stocks like AMC and really just any stock that the market was short on, which should absolutely be allowed in a free market. But now these people have been interfered with. Every stock they started deciding to buy, these exchanges started blocking. How is that fair? Claiming it was for everyone's protection. Proving that we never really did have a free market. It's only free for the little guy like me and you to lose money in, but not for them. It's like more of like a socialist thing where they don't lose money. We get to lose money, but they don't get to lose money. It's like this market where they get to cry to the referees and get the rules changed late in the fourth quarter so that they can keep winning the game. It's the 2008 bailout situation all over again. And it gets worse. They only allowed people to sell out of their positions, which stopped the free market from pumping the price further. This allowed the hedge funds to borrow more money to push the price down during after-hours trading, which only they are allowed to participate in because they're accredited investors, and accredited investors get to participate in things that we don't. Then, for those that didn't sell because they didn't want to sell, and you can check WallStreetBets, they didn't want to sell. After the hedge funds pushed the price back down with their newly borrowed money that they were able to get, they liquidated and closed out the positions of everyone else who was in profit, and they waited till these hedge funds pushed the price down to the bottom to do that. Let the people trade. Robinhood. Robinhood robbed the fucking hood. And they had to do it this way because they would have lost everything because they were over leveraged. They took on too much risk than they could handle, and they needed to pull the plug badly. Here's a tweet from the #1 broker of hedge funds, basically admitting that they were all at risk until they figured out a way for Reddit traders to be stopped. Even the left and the right agree on this one. Now here's where things get conspiratorial. Citadel, the company that owned the hedge fund, Melvin Capital, gave them $3 billion to push the price back down during after-hours trading, which we talked about, right? This same company, the Citadel, guess what? They own Robinhood. Conflict of interest? Anyone? And here, let's tie in the astrology a little bit, of course. That's why some of you are here. Some of you guys just want to know what happened, but this is kind of an example of Venus conjunct Pluto in Capricorn playing itself out. I'll explain what that is, but let's just look at these tweets by Justin Can. Shout out to Justin Can. He's actually, as you can see here, been sent a cease and desist letter. So what I'm about to say is a hypothetical interpretation of astrology here. It's not his opinion, all right? What could he have possibly said on Twitter that triggered the Citadel to send lawyers after this man? Well, it's deleted, so we can't really say. Ever since 2020, sometimes things on the internet don't stay available for people to see very long. Unless someone captured what was said in the moment. Let's pretend we can go back in time and take a look. So it says he just got a tip that the Citadel reloaded their shorts before they told Robinhood to stop trading GameStop. If this is true, Ken Griffin and the Robinhood founders should be in jail. This is class warfare. He's got AOC tagged here and Rashida Tlaib here. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. There should be a congressional hearing. The SEC should investigate the following. Did the Citadel's hedge funds hold any short positions in stocks heavily owned by Robinhood users? And did they increase in the past few days? They should subpoena all emails and phone calls between Citadel Securities and Robinhood. Subpoena all emails and phone calls between the Wall Street banks and Robinhood, because Robinhood gives its shares to the banks to lend out to hedge fund clients through prime brokerage. Did the Wall Street banks communicate with Robinhood to stop trading GameStop? Otherwise, they cut them off from their short borrow revenues. Subpoena all emails and communications between the hedge funds who are taking huge losses, who are investors in Robinhood. For example, D1 Capital. D1 was down $4 billion on its shorts and only has a $200 million investment in Robinhood. Thus, D1 profits more by having Robinhood stop trading in their shorts rather than their Robinhood investment, right? Would you rather be down $4 billion or $200 million? You tell me. And there it is, right? So during today's short, this was on the 28th, there were 443,000 shares sold in a single batch at this time. 347K at $140, right? Just a few minutes before that. So somebody took a total loss of $300 million from the price that hour, or this was a $100 million short sale. And then we got this interesting post on Reddit from someone who claimed they work at Robinhood. Now, we don't really know if this person works at Robinhood or not, but it's interesting. It says, I work at Robinhood. Don't kill me, bro. Low-level technical shit. Comp sciences major. I'm not on the finance side. Guess what we overheard today? Vlad, yes, the founder and the C-suite, right? The corporate, the high-level guys at Robinhood. They received calls from Sequoia Capital and the White House that pressured them into closing trading on GameStop. I guarantee you the same phone calls took place at E-Trade and all the other brokerages that closed trading. File reports on the SEC page. If I wasn't scared to be out of work in a pandemic, I'd quit. I'm disgusted. We all need to rise up. This is as bad as it gets when we talk about how the rich ones get to set the rules and the rest of us get screwed over and over and over again, left to bail them out and pick up the tab for their trillion-dollar tax breaks. We need to pile pressure on every government and financial institution involved in this travesty of justice. I'm taking a massive career risk even posting this here. And Justin Ken was like, anyone brave enough to step out, look, if you want to come out forward anonymously, I can put you in touch with the right people. And, again, this was taken down, right? So this is all hypothetical. We're just pretending that we can take a look back in time, way, way back in time. And in my opinion, they probably felt it better to save themselves from losing billions in indefinite losses and claim that their actions were all a part of their terms of service that, people signed up for, and have their day in court and maybe lose a couple million and get a slap on the wrist. I'd rather lose a couple million than lose billions. Wall Street has been operating like this for decades, right? But this is going to court. People who used Robinhood were robbed. And so this has led to a whole bunch of people realizing that the only free market the everyday investor who has a little money in their pocket can truly fairly be involved in is cryptocurrency, where there's no circuit breaker that someone can pull as someone who's a big dog and has a lot of money starts losing. Bro, even Ja Rule is upset about this.
Oh my God, this is terrible. Could somebody please find Ja Rule, get hold of this motherfucker so I can make sense of all this. Where is Ja?
Another thing that's interesting is Robinhood got a bunch of one-star reviews, and Google decides to remove them all because they too are claiming manipulation. For some reason, if the pores get together and unite, it's manipulation and it must be stopped. But if we're divided, that's natural, I guess. That looks normal to them. I don't know. Are they really trying to say that people who were in profit by their own decisions and then were forced to take a loss without their permission can't possibly genuinely be upset? Really? Now, you've probably asked yourself during all of that I've said, how does any of that relate to astrology? Well, let's pull up the chart. On the day that this happened, we had the full moon in the sign of Leo in a T-square with Mars and Uranus on one side and Saturn and the midheaven on a square on the other side. Whether or not you know what any of that means, these are some explosive, extreme aspects, and I'll explain them to you. But before we get into that, let me do my due diligence here and wrap up the thoughts that I presented on the 8th house of astrology, which is actually one of my favorite houses in astrology. A lot of people are afraid of it. You know, houses in astrology are really just places in the sky. In Jyotish, houses are actually called bhavas, which are just states of being. The 8th house is, or the 8th place is all about secrets and things that you don't see coming. Why? Well, when the sun is just above the western horizon, just above it, and you're traveling or you're driving in your car, you can literally barely see what's in front of you. It's hard to see what's going on, right? That's why the 8th house has this reputation of sudden ups and downs. It's just hard to see what's coming at you. The 8th house correlates to when the sun is just above the western horizon. It's hard to know what people who are plotting against you are up to. They won't tell you. It's a secret. Everything you keep secret and everything that's kept secret from you, it relates to the 8th house. And since the sun is setting there, it's related to everything dark, everything that's done in private. Now, just think about how that energy could relate to trading and investing. I really could keep going on this topic, but that's enough for now in the houses. Let's get back to the astrology of what happened. The full moon in the sign of Leo in a T-square with Mars, Uranus on one side, and then you got a square with Saturn in the midheaven on the other side. What is a square? It's like I'm driving this way and you're driving this way, you're trying to go that way, and we're bumping into each other now because we're both in each other's way, right? The hedge fund had a goal and then Reddit had a goal, and now they're at odds with each other. That's a square. Now what is a T-square? It's two squares. You got this square going on, then you have a third person trying to go a certain way. Now you have three people in each other's way with their goals and what they're trying to accomplish. What is Saturn? That is an entire topic in itself. But for the sake of this video, right, let's just keep it simple. Saturn is basically the energy of limitation and all the forms that limitation can take in this life that we deal with as humans. Right? In this case, Saturn is those in power, those in authority, those who have the ability to impose limitation on you whether you like it or not. In this case, Robinhood, Ameritrade, the brokers, and the old hedge funds with deep pockets are representative of Saturn. In this chart, Saturn is in its own sign. Doesn't matter what zodiac you're using. Tropical, sidereal. He's in his own sign. And so it's at home with what it's doing, and it's empowered to do so. Just like you're empowered to do as you wish when you're at home. Saturn's at home. He's feeling good. He's going to do whatever he wants. What is Uranus? Again, an entire topic in itself, but for the sake of this video, it's the energy of revolution, change, innovation, technology, rebellion. In this case, it's the internet. It's the platform Reddit itself. Okay, now what is Mars? Independence, youth, masculinity, conflict, wanting things to go your way. Right? Both Uranus and Mars hanging out together in the sign of Taurus, a sign that's related to all things tangible that you can touch. That includes money. And then what is the moon? Again, that's an entire topic in itself. In this case, it's the people and their emotions. It has a lot to do with the mind and how we see reality. So you tell me, are these energies in conflict with each other? You tell me. Absolutely. Absolutely. Then you have the moon in opposition with Saturn. And opposition is just like it sounds. One versus the other, 180 degrees, head to head, right? The moon, the people, Saturn, authority, head to head. Simple to understand. And then back to Venus conjunct Pluto, which we talked about. Right? So what is a conjunction? A conjunction is when two planetary bodies are on top of each other, blending their energies. Venus conjunct Pluto can indicate negotiations with very powerful people taking important financial decisions behind the scenes. Today is the 29th of this recording, and Mercury is going to be both retrograde and invisible in about a day or so. So I think the story will probably lose some steam for about a week until Mercury is what's called Cazimi on the 8th of February, which means it's getting boosted. It's getting support from the sun. And then we have Mercury square Mars. We know what a square is. We know what Mars is representative of, our independence, our masculine energy, how we exert ourselves, right? How people exert ourselves. And Mercury has a lot to do with commerce. So I'll be keeping an eye out for any interesting developments, around the beginning of the second week of February. And maybe you can do the same. Let's find out what happens. Now, what I'm even more interested in is how the Saturn-Jupiter conjunctions play a larger role in what's been happening with finance as a whole and the implications of that moving in the future. Because every time that there's a conjunction, every 20 years, the world just never looks the same. It just doesn't. Actually, a similar situation happened before with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction of 1980 and the price of silver. Check this tweet out. There is nothing new under the sun. So with that, I have a lot of ideas on how the Saturn-Jupiter conjunctions will affect the future of finance for the next 20 years, specifically in crypto and the things that I see happening there. There's a lot of astrologers, too, that put up a lot of good content on how the conjunction will affect finance. But I think the decentralization in which people continue to realize that decentralized sources of power, giving them the on and off switch, isn't helping out the little guy. It's not helping out the average person. And that we as a society need to move away from that to trustless systems where no one has that button or that power, right? So you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that someone isn't just going to shut you off. Yeah, so if this video was helpful and you guys would like me to keep sharing more about the circumstances the future astrology can bring us and how you can position yourself accordingly, you guys know what to do. You guys know how these algorithms work by now with these videos, right? And so do the needful. Feel free to reach out if you have any comments, questions, or you want a chart reading. One love. Peace.